I'm going to call this meeting of the Beaumont Planning Commission to order at 6:02.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Here.
Commissioner Johnson?
Here.
Vice Chairman Voss?
He's absent.
Chairman St. Martin?
Present.
Thank you.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any adjustments to the agenda?
I have none.
Any conflicts of interest?
Item 4 is a former client.
Okay.
Not currently anymore, but I did recuse myself from the first hearing. Just for the sake of consistency on the matter, it feels appropriate to do again.
Any one person may address the Planning Commission on any matter not on this agenda. If you wish to speak, please fill out a public comment form provided on the back table and give it to the city clerk. There is a 3-minute time limit on public comments. There will be no sharing or passing of time to another person. State law prohibits the commission from discussing or taking actions brought up by your comments. Are there any requests to speak?
No request.
Thank you. Item number 1, approval of the minutes dated November 14th.
I'll move to approve.
A second.
Roll call, please.
Okay. Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman St. Martin?
Yes. Item number 2, conditional use permit 16-CUP-09, 10, 11, and 02.
Thank you, Planning Commission, Chair and Commissioners. These conditional use permits, 3 of them were approved in December of 2016, and the staff report is included for your reference, and the 17 CUP-02 was originally approved in February. All CUPs are valid for a 1-year period. These are for basically type 21 liquor licenses, a pharmacy with a drive-through, and 2 restaurants. The plans have been in process and they are moving forward towards completion. However, a CUP only becomes valid once they actually get their building permit. So they're in process. So we're asking you to continue these 1 year so that they have the time to pull the building permit. With that, staff recommends that you approve 1-year extensions of time of approval on conditional use permit 16 CUP-09, 16 CUP-10, 16 CUP-11, and 17 CUP-02. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Commissioners, any questions of staff?
They expect to get their building permits within the year.
Yes.
I just for information only. What are the buildings that are going in there? I forgot what we were doing.
For these conditional use permits or for the whole project?
Well, for the project itself.
We have a Sonic.
Yeah.
We have a inline suite with multiple uses. One of them is Panera. We have a tire store and a car wash. And then we have a pharmacy at the end. Am I missing anything?
No.
Okay.
There's a couple suites in the inline that
Yes.
have yet to be named yet.
Okay, the only reason I ask you, and I thank you, is I got hammered this afternoon about when's the movie theater going in out there, and I said,
Not this project.
That's not this site.
no, I said, I don't think so, but my memory's a little short from last time. So, thank you.
There are no other questions. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Vice Chairman Voss? Sorry. Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman St. Martin?
Yes. Item number 3, variance V 2017-002.
Thank you, Chairman, Commission. Staff has received an application for a variance at 1640 Primrose Avenue within the Oak Valley Greens specific plan. The specific plan documents require all rear setbacks to be 15 feet from the dwelling unit and 10 feet for accessory structures. The proposed rear setback for this accessory structure, which is a patio, is proposed at 6 feet from post to rear property line. The variance procedure is in our code and requires us to notify the reasons for the variance is to grant relief from zoning provisions when, because of special circumstances applicable to the party and property, including size, shape, topography, location, or surroundings, the strict application of the zoning ordinance deprives such property of privileges enjoyed by their other properties in the vicinity and under identical zoning classifications. There are findings listed in the staff report that need to be made should you choose to approve this variance. And with that, we recommend you hold a public hearing, and you have the option of either approving variance V 2017-0012 for a rear yard setback at 1640 Primrose Avenue, subject to the findings listed as presented, or deny variance V 2017-0012 for a rear yard setback. I can answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners, any questions of staff?
I have one question. That patio cover, it's 11 feet out? Is that what, I'm having a little trouble reading.
That's how I read it,
Okay.
correct?
That's pretty big.
Want to borrow my computer?
Yes.
That's 11 by 29.
Okay.
That house is already pretty tight on that rear setback, it looks like.
Most of our builders build their house to setback, which is usually 15 feet. So most homes, if they met the strict requirements of the zoning, would only be allowed a 5-foot patio cover.
Do we know, has there been a land plan or anything that's submitted for the property behind it? It's right up adjacent to the channel. There's somebody else that's ultimately proposing a residential use there.
This
Right now
is
it's
in a
vacant.
developed area.
Maybe Google's giving me the wrong address then.
Probably.
I apologize, I don't have that information.
Did we receive any objections from any of the neighbors or anything?
I did not.
And is there HOA?
That would be a requirement for them. We don't
Okay.
verify. You can, if the applicant's here, we can check with the applicant if they've applied to the HOA.
There's no
There's
HOA?
no HOA. I'm
let
sorry,
me
this is Oak Valley Greens. I apologize.
Okay.
Let me open a public hearing so that you can ask the question. I'm going to open a public hearing at 6:11. Will the applicant please come up?
Name's Richard Pettit, live at 1640 Primrose Avenue. I'd like to thank the commission for allowing us to come forth and speak about this issue. Basically, there's nothing behind us, as Commissioner Smith said. There's a wash there with a big mound. The original purpose for building this patio cover was to shade it from the morning heat sun that's coming in. So the front of the house is pretty much protected. Everything in the back is the actual living quarters. So a lot of time is spent back there. We felt that this was the best way to go, as opposed to putting a bunch of solar up on the roof for about 10 times the cost. So, and it's worked out fairly efficiently, but we found that when the builders got the plan, evidently they didn't look at it, and we're going to leave it in your hands. But it doesn't seem to be any objections from any of our neighbors. We've had questions from them about it. Once they've looked at the structure, they've said, hey, this is nice. So
The structure is already, it's already there?
it's already there.
And how did you get it approved?
Well, here was the thing. When they submitted the original plans to the building department, it was approved, but the building department had altered the plans, I guess, to move the post back a couple of feet. Would have left a big overhang on the patio, or else they would have had to shorten it. And when the workers got there to install, they must have had the original plans, not the ones that the city had altered, and they went ahead and put it down as the original. So
I believe the contractor made the changes in order to get it approved, and then when they had the workers do it, did it on the original plans.
right.
And from what I can look at the There could be. There's an area where there's an Edison easement, and I'm not sure whether they're right up to that or whether they're up to the future homes in the Noble Creek Meadow specific plan. So there's a,
Address that. The Edison road there that you're talking about is actually a house away from us.
so there could
It's
be
just above.
a house behind them in the future.
Well, if they want to build it in the wash, they could, unless they level that mountain down. and
Right.
Put a pipeline down there to take care of
So are you
rainwater.
Well, they'll be, yeah, they'll,
are you at the intersection of Primrose and Flower or Primrose and Stargazer?
Primrose and Flower.
Primrose and Flower. Okay.
yeah, there's a trail with the wash, but there'd be a house on the other side of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, I just wanted to make sure, there wasn't something that was active that was going on there that they would need to be made aware of as well. And if there's no future use there, then it's an existing condition.
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it, so.
It's part of, I guess the land back there is part of Noble Creek or.
Meadows, correct.
Okay.
There is a specific plan and track map that go
Right.
back there, but there is, like you said, the creek in
The
between.
creek, yeah, right.
And the structure's been inspected and approved?
It's
It can't get finalized until this
been
is approved.
installed, and it hasn't been finalized yet because of the issue with the post.
Okay.
We did witness, though, with these strong winds that we've had lately, that it's held up fairly good. Strong
What kind of
structure.
material is it? Is the
It's the
wood?
aluma
wood.
wood. It's the heavy gauge, so you can actually get up on it and walk on it just like any roof.
Yeah,
So,
okay.
and it is a solid with electrical wiring through it for lights
Light
and
and
fans.
fans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions of the applicant?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:15. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve variance V 2017-0012 for the rear setback for 1640 Primrose Avenue.
Did we close the public hearing?
I did.
Thank you.
Hey, our computers may not work. but
Do I
we
have a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Deny.
Chairman St. Mark?
Yes.
All right. Step out real quick.
Okay, item number 4.
Did I say the right item? Yeah.
I don't know why you come to any of these.
Beaumont Plaza Conditional Use Permit, CUP 2017-009.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Tonight before you is the conditional use permit for off-sale general liquor type 21 at convenience store associated with the gas station and a sign program for that commercial shopping center. For some reason, the sign program exhibits were not attached to your staff report, so here they are.
Yeah.
By all means, if you need time to look through those, we can go ahead and just pause real quick as you review the sign program. But I'll go ahead and go through some of the standard language that's included in some of our staff reports related to CUPs. So we've received the application for that conditional use permit. It's for the Chevron gas station, and they're looking for a general liquor license to be able to sell liquor from that premises. The municipal code requires approval of conditional use permit by planning commission for alcoholic beverage sales. And the purpose of that requirement is to establish a formal review of those proposals, which involves conducting a public hearing, which we are doing tonight. And that establishes a formal review of those proposals, and given written notice within, or to property owners within 300 feet of the property. Through the process, Planning Commission has opportunity to determine if the use proposed or the location of that use is compatible with surrounding uses, or through conditions can be made compatible. Planning Commission can approve or deny the proposal and may establish conditions of approval for the business operations to ensure it's not a detriment to the community. So a little background is in April of this year, Planning Commission did vote to approve the development of a 2.3 acre parcel located at the southwest corner of State Route 79, Beaumont Avenue, and Louis Estrada Road. At that meeting, one conditional use permit was processed with the plot plan, and that was for the actual gas station with a car wash. The applicant has since looked at getting alcohol sales out of that convenience store and has applied for a conditional use permit to do just that. At the same time, they had been submitting a sign package for the Chevron, and staff went back to them and said, look, the sign program or sign package you're submitting for Chevron's in excess of what the sign code allows, so you're either going to need to tailor that sign package down for your permits or apply for a sign program for the center, and we advise you to apply for a sign program for the center and also make sure that the second building is included on the renderings on what types of signage so that everything matches to create one cohesive center and not have a hodgepodge of different signs out there on two different buildings. So the applicant went ahead and put together a sign program. Before you tonight, actually, to go back on the description of the projects, it is 3 buildings of retail, service, and restaurant uses. The first building that was approved is a 2-story. It's around 6,000 square feet. Has a convenience store, a drive-through restaurant, and then a 600 square foot office. The second building is around 4,000 square foot restaurant building with a drive-through. That's phase 2. And there's 1,000 square foot car wash and some fuel canopies associated with the Chevron. The commercial site is zoned commercial, and surrounding uses include Denny's, Del Taco, and a couple towing service facilities. So the sign program, which you've had a little bit of time to review, and if you need more, by all means, we can take a little bit break and you can look at those. Establishes the parameters and the types of signage for the commercial shopping center derived from the provisions contained within the Beaumont Municipal Code. Program does propose a hierarchy of ID signs ranging from different size, street-facing monument sign, a large 75-foot tall pylon sign, and what we're typically associated with these are your wall signs. And there's different wall signs related to different businesses, and wall signs as well on the fuel canopies. So design and character of the pylon canopy sign is detailed within the exhibit. The size and the character have been developed in consultation with city staff, and most details are therefore considered to be acceptable with one exclusion: the height of the pylon portion of the sign. The Beaumont Municipal Code does restrict height of pylon signs to 25 feet within the commercial complex, within commercial zones. The height of the sign is one of the main reasons the applicant applied for a sign program versus just a sign permit that's approved at the staff level. This applicant did provide renderings that you can see as part of the attached exhibits that you're reviewing, and that shows the proposed sign at that 75-foot height, and the reasoning or the rationale for the 75-foot height is the visibility from Interstate 10. So anything less than that 75, you really will not be able to see the thing coming east or west. So they've done some homework and shown us why 75 feet in this scenario makes sense, and why maybe in another scenario, in another project in town, 75 feet may be excessive. So staff does believe that based on their renderings and the signage, that it would be acceptable. Planning Commission may approve or modify a conditional use permit in whole or in part with or without conditions, provided that all the following findings in fact are made. And those are listed 1 through 11. And staff does recommend that Planning Commission, 1, hold a public hearing, and 2, approve conditional use permit CUP 2017-0009 and the sign program based upon the findings stipulated herein, subject to the attached conditions of approval. And I can answer any questions, and the applicant is here as well. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Commissioner Tinker?
So that I'm clear, it sounds to me like we're dealing with 2 separate issues for the same piece of property tonight.
Yes,
The sign program and then the alcohol issue.
correct.
Okay, so what we're looking at right now is purely the sign.
Both.
Both are lumped in together.
You can approve them together. You can approve with one without the other. You can deny both if you don't like them. But we took them together just because they're associated, and we tried to save time from staff as packaging them as one product.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with the sign height. We all know that that's down in a hole.
Yeah.
And if you stuck to 25 foot, it probably wouldn't even get over the bridge there, so.
Yeah.
And correct me if I'm wrong, if I'm not wrong here, sometimes this is a 21 license, which is hard liquor and beer and wine, correct?
Yes.
So in the past, we've dealt with it one of two ways. They either came in with a 20, a beer and wine, and then they had to come back later for a 21 license. But I think our advice from you, Rebecca, in the past was for them to go for a 21, then they don't have to come back to us. Is that not correct?
That's incorrect. When we issue a certificate of convenience and necessity and we issue a CUP, it's for a specific type. So whatever they applied to us is what we brought to you. And if they need to change it for whatever reason, we've always come back to you. So our suggestion is if you would like, or if you want to direct staff in the future, when someone applies for a type 21, we can word it so it's type 20 or 21, so that the conditions of approval in the staff report and then the noticing all have that. That way they are able to go back and forth for the life of the conditional use permit.
Well, okay, that's what I meant. I guess I didn't word it correctly, because in the past, we've had them come in with a 20, and then 2 or 3 months later, they come back for a 21. And I believe we had, and I could be wrong here, that we had told some people, hey, why don't you go for a 21 to start with? Then that encompasses everything you want to do, and you don't have to keep coming back and forth.
Yes, but I think the problem is some people can't get the 21 license right away. So they apply for the 19. Then when they're able to purchase the 21, they're ready to upgrade it.
Okay.
Which is, I believe, the situation here is that he wants a 21. That's what he definitely wants. But the issue is that might not be available immediately, and he wants some sort of liquor license when the store opens.
Okay.
So whether you want to grant both so that it can then, be issued as a 20 and then be upgraded to 21 without coming back to you, that's within commission's decision.
Is there a time constraint?
All CUPs.
The time constraint from our perspective is they need to be utilized within a year, or they need to ask for an extension. If you're talking about a time constraint related to the ABC license, that's all going to be shouldered by the applicant.
Okay.
Now, knowledge of the type 21s is you have to either pay a very high price to purchase one from another individual that has one, or in Riverside County, you need to go through a lottery system, and that is applied for, and then the lottery is performed, and then certain individuals are selected. And when you win it, you need to have your approval in
Ready to
order
go.
to utilize it.
Yeah.
So I don't believe the applicant currently has one secured. They may be looking at purchasing one privately from an individual that has one. They're very expensive, or much cheaper if you win the lottery. And it's not like a makeshift lottery. It literally is a lottery that ABC does, where they draw names out.
Okay.
Any questions of the applicant?
No, I'm good now.
Okay.
We still need to open the public.
Yeah, I'll
hearing.
open and close the public hearing at 6:27. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve.
And did you want to allow the type 20 license as well as the type 21?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve to allow the type 20 as well.
I'll second it. You're gonna do a 20 or 21?
Both, right?
Both.
Okay.
Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman St. Mark?
Yes.
They want a motion to sign program as well?
That was all in one motion
Yeah.
for both?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we've approved the construction there, so he needs the signage to,
Yeah.
so.
I just want to come up and thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we need to build the building, but you can't put the sign up.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, yeah, come on back, bud.
Do you want to close public comment?
I opened and closed it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You gotta watch him, he's slick.
Okay, item number 5, conditional use permit CUP 2017-0008.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioners. You may recognize Astra's tattoo. This is an application to move down the street on 6th Street. We have received this application. The subject site is a 400 square foot suite within a commercial building at 257 East 6th Street, Suite B. The site contains an existing building with 3 business suites with a small shared parking lot with the parking on site. The building would be suitable for a tattoo establishment. The key issues related to the approval of a tattoo establishment involve the appropriateness of the location, the nature and manner of operations to be conducted. With regard to the location, the site is Zone CG Commercial General and is proposed inside an existing building. The proposed approval would limit the operations of the business to be 12 p.m. to 9 p.m., 7 days a week. The interior of the site plan shows 2 chairs, and the applicant anticipates only himself working in the business initially with the potential of expanding operations in the future. This is very similar to what was previously approved down the street, or exactly the same, should I say. However, this site was conditioned under a previous business and has a recorded improvement agreement on the site to pave and stripe the parking lot. Staff is recommending that that condition be enforced at this time and that the parking lot be paved and striped to the satisfaction of the Public Works Department prior to occupancy of this use. Additionally, conditions that were included in that agreement were landscaping and trash enclosures, again, based on this previous recorded agreement that was put in place quite a few years ago. The conditional use permit form of approval allows the city to monitor the subject use and to initiate proceedings for revocation of the permit if the conditions are violated or if the use otherwise becomes a public nuisance. Sufficient protection exists for the maintenance of the public health, safety, and welfare. With that, staff has the findings listed required to approve or modify the conditional use permit in whole or in part, with or without conditions, provided again that the findings are made. With that, staff recommends you hold a public hearing and approve conditional use permit number CUP 2017-0008, subject to the attached conditions of approval. I can answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here.
Commissioners?
The paving that's being requested, is the parking lot paved already? It's just looking for a fresh coat, or is it a dirt parking lot?
It's gravel.
Gravel?
Pretty much.
Okay. And it's the parking lot that's behind the building?
It's, yeah, to the side.
Okay.
If you see in the site plan, you can see where the parking's striped. This was the original plan of where it would be paved and striped.
Okay.
Right now, it's just a gravel area.
Okay.
Commissioner Tinker?
On this paving and striping, do we have a time frame, or is this to be done prior to occupancy?
This time frame has passed from the original requested recorded agreement. We asked for 1 year, and we are a couple years past that deadline. However, we give the option, we say within a year or as requested by the city. With this, we are recommending that it be done prior to occupancy, as they've had a chance to do it in the past and have not done it yet.
Okay.
Not this applicant, but the property owner.
You can say it'd be a property owner responsibility to bring the
It's
site
al-
up to
It's
up to
always,
code for-
yeah, it's always between the tenants and the property owner to negotiate how and what the improvements and conditions are done in order to bring the site up to condition for use.
And this was a prior existing condition.
On a previous business,
Yeah,
on multiple
okay.
previous
So
businesses.
this is nothing new to the property owner or anything like that?
That's correct. He has signed an agreement and it is recorded on the property.
Oh, okay then.
Commissioner Johnson? No questions. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:35. Will the applicant come up? State your name and address, please.
Chris Smith, My house or?
Your house.
1184 Brookmead Circle.
So why the move?
They have recently sold the building.
Okay.
And the people that want to have the building, they want to take those 3 units and make it into one whole suite.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much it. Everything
Okay.
else, like that was the only reason.
That's a good reason for moving.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Then I found this location down the street, and I wasn't aware of the parking situation, so I don't know how you guys want to go about doing that.
Have you had that conversation with the owner about
I
the?
just recently found out about it. What would you called me like last week or so?
Yeah, we tried to get a hold of him a few weeks ago as we started working on the application. He had technical difficulties and we weren't able to leave a message. So we tried back a few times and we finally were able to get a hold of him last week, make sure he knew the meetings today and the issues. Doesn't sound like he was able to get with the landowner in that time.
It sounds like the owner should have known already.
Well, I have spoken with them just the other day, and they said they were supposed to come down here and talk to you guys about it. I don't know what their issues are. I wasn't even aware of it, that had to be, but usually most of my clients park out in the front. Like I have like one car, you know what I mean? So they'll usually park in the front of the street. Because the shop that I have now has a parking structure in the back, but I don't really let people park back there.
But do you understand that that conditioned upon you starting your business, that work has to be done? That could. Do you understand that that's part of that would be?
No,
part of
I
what we're
understand it. I
okay.
completely understand like
Okay.
the situation. I'm just.
I mean, regardless of whether they park in the front,
Yeah.
that work would still have to be done. I don't want that to be,
Right.
be able to something that's going to shut down the business or something like that if you're not able to follow through,
Right.
or you or the owner.
Right.
Have you been given a date that you have to be out of your current
Not
by?
yet. Not yet. They still have to do a bunch of construction to the whole building.
Okay.
So they're actually being really laid back about it. But I mean, it's still, it takes me time to come in here to do another conditional use permit if I have to find another location and more money and time, so, I don't know.
Yeah, but it looks like we can't rely on the owner to meet his obligations.
Right.
And without that work being done, we can't allow you to move into the building.
Okay.
Do you think would you instead of request approval today be interested in continuing it till next month, hoping that we can get the owner in here to discuss?
See, I thought he was gonna come down here and talk with you the other guys the other day, so I have no idea what their situation is.
Can we suggest that we can?
You guys can motion to continue it, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to continue this if we can.
We need to close the public hearing.
Excuse me, sorry.
Thank you for your, I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:37.
Now.
Now you can make a motion.
I'll make a motion to continue this CUP 2017-0008
To the next.
to the next Planning Commission meeting.
I'll second.
And when is that?
January 9th. Commissioner Tinker?
Yes.
January 9th, to answer your question.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson?
Yes.
Chairman Seymour?
Yes.
Do I need to have him come down here?
Yeah.
Is that what we need to do? Like, what do I need to do to be just so we're ready for the next meeting?
It would seem at this point that your condition on the lease would be his improvement on that, and so the city's kind of indicated that, and if he's looking to make the lease, he has an obligation that he has to have to fulfill that.
Right.
So it's in his interest in order to lease the property to make the improvements so that it can all move forward. It'd probably be a good idea for him to come down and talk to city staff, but you know, if it's been conditioned in the past and it's been put off and put off and put off, it's, you know, something that we're going to want to see get addressed.
Yeah, no one else would be able to occupy that building.
Right.
Until that is completed.
Okay, understandable.
Yeah,
Okay. Thank you, guys.
thank you. Item number 6, plot plan number PP 2017-0024.
Thank you, Chairman, Commission. This project entails the development of a new 3,500 square foot single-story building with 18 parking spaces for office/retail use on a .41 acre lot. The site is located at 1202 Beaumont Avenue. The proposed use is permitted within the Beaumont Avenue overlay zone, subject to approval of a plot plan by the Beaumont Planning Commission. The subject site has an existing building that is proposed to be demolished as part of this approval. To the north, there is existing commercial building. To the east, there is residential property, and across the street to the south, there's residential, and west to the commercial. The project involves the development of one commercial building measuring roughly 120 by 31, inclusive of the walls, stucco, metal panels, some metal awning enhancements, windows, and a pedestrian doorway entrances totaling 3,500 square feet of building area. The proposal is for 2,000 square feet of this building to be a medical office, and 1,500 is currently a shell, but they are meeting the parking requirement for retail use in there. So it can be an office or retail use. The setbacks of the building are proposed to be 45 feet from the front property line on Beaumont Avenue, 5 feet from the north property line, and 15 feet from the rear property line. This meets the minimum setbacks for the building. With regard to parking and circulation, the parking is provided by 18 parking spaces with 2 ADA compliant handicap spaces. The municipal code requires 1 space per 250 square feet for the medical office and 1 space per 200 square feet for the office retail, yielding a total requirement of 16 spaces. This site is accessible via driveway access from Beaumont Avenue and from 12th Street. In terms of sign, the proposal does not include any conceptual wall signs, but if approved, the project would have to comply with the standards set forth in our commercial zone sign code. With regards to project landscaping, under the proposal, the applicant is proposing to leave the existing lawn, and new landscaping will be required in the other new landscape areas to meet city's landscape ordinance that requires water efficient landscaping. Separate detailed landscape plans are required to be submitted as part of the conditions of approval. This application is exempt from CEQA under section 15332, and therefore would not warrant an initial study to be conducted. There are findings listed in the staff report needed for approval of a plot plan, and with that, staff recommends you hold a public hearing and approve plot plan PP 2017-0024 as presented, subject to the attached conditions of approval. Mine cut off the elevations when printing. I didn't know if that was the scan. I just noticed that, so I have a copy that we can pass through.
Thank you.
If you need. I don't have enough for everyone, but you can pass it down. So it looks like this. Few copies here. Just not enough. One more. I got 3.
That's good, that's good.
So that gives you the whole elevation there. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Chairman, I
Yes.
have a concern with this 5-foot setback on a commercial building, and I'm looking at the fire department requirements, and I'm not sure whether he says that additional hydrant be required along with fire sprinkler plans. Is that an indication that he's gonna require the building to be fire sprinkler?
Building code requires to be a fire sprinkler
Well,
now.
I'm just,
Yes, he would require it to be sprinklered.
well, fire code would, yeah, but. I'm just looking at his requirements and just. Okay, so I can assume that the building is gonna be fire sprinkler?
Yes.
That's correct.
Okay, then I don't have a problem with the 5-foot setback. Otherwise, I would. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions of staff? Do you have questions of the applicant? Is the applicant available? Okay.
So are you the current owner of the property now?
Let me open a public hearing. I'm going to open the public hearing at 6:43.
Good evening, Chairman and Commissioner. My name is Grace Park. I reside in Yucaipa, California.
Okay. So you're the current owner of the property?
Yes, my husband is the doctor, practicing doctor, and I work as the office manager there.
So things have gone well enough where you have a need for this expansion, huh?
Yes, yes. So we've been there for 15 years. April will be 15 years for us.
Okay.
The practice has been there since the 60s.
Okay.
We have, to accommodate the community, we have taken on more insurances, and so that's why we're requiring to expand.
Okay.
We're averaging 30 patients a day right now.
Wow.
So we do need the expansion.
Yeah.
So if the city approves it.
Well, congratulations on the success.
Thank you.
Okay.
You'd be the only tenant?
As of right now, yes. We are working with a commercial real estate broker right now to maybe see if we can, get someone else in. We're looking to get a specialist in, maybe an endodontist or a periodontist, someone in the dental.
Okay.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
I noticed that your property, looks like there's 2 lots there. The front building, and then behind your property, it seems to be elevated with
Yes.
another concrete slab.
Yes,
And that's all coming out?
yes. That will be our parking area, and then our building that's going to be, so the back half so where San Gorgonio Water District is.
Yes.
So right in front of that, the building will go behind, and then the front will be the parking. So that whole area, so half of that lot will be building, and then the other half will be continual of parking.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm going to close the public hearing at 6:45. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve.
I'll second.
Commissioner Tinker,
Yes.
Commissioner Smith,
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson,
Yes.
Chairman St. Martin.
Yes. Item number 7.
Thank you, Chairman. We went to council on September 19th, 2017 to discuss with City Council whether they were interested in amending the city's billboard policy to allow for digital displays on our billboards. They have sent this item to you. For you to direct City Council on what you guys would like to see and recommend to Council. Their biggest concern at the meeting was distracted driving. I have researched as many reports as I can find, and all but one report, in my understanding, I can find says that it is a distraction. However, it is permitted by the state, and so there's a question, it's not really a straight answer. There's a lot of studies in a lot of countries, and, a lot of them say it creates a distraction. There's ways to minimize those distractions by, we don't allow animation. It's a solid state. There's discussion I'm having with Lamar on, some of their billboards are better than others. You can't even tell it's digital until it changes. So looking at, how bright it is, making sure that it adjusts to the conditions and weather. So if it's it's not the same brightness on a bright sunny day as it is on a cloudy day, because on a cloudy day you can be less bright, so it doesn't blind you in a sense. So looking at those along with night versus day and the brightness that you need. So there's options if we allow them to condition it to reduce impact and that kind of thing to the drivers. But I didn't know what you might want me to bring back to you, what information, if you want any, to further discuss this. So I just wanted to kind of bring it back to you so that you guys can, kind of continue this to the next meeting if that's what you would like to do, so that you guys can do some of your own research and come back to us. But I didn't know if you wanted anything particular. I didn't want to print out every report that I was able to find and give it to you. So I kind of wanted to just see how you wanted to handle it, direct staff on what information you might want, or if you guys already have an opinion and want to go back to council and direct us now and say yes or no. I'll be happy to take that back to council as well.
Well, I'd rather postpone this or table it until to another meeting.
Well, I think we can discuss it a little bit.
We can discuss it.
Yeah,
But,
I
yeah,
have some
fine, we can-
questions. but-
Yeah.
And any questions you have, I can try and go get the answer and bring that back to the next
Right.
meeting.
Because initially, I'm against them because of their distraction. And I know you said you researched it, but I've
like I said-
seen traffic slow down when they approach these visual signs, and for no reason whatsoever. I mean, it's just like walking and talking on your telephone. You tend to walk slower when you're talking on your telephone. Don't understand it, but it's a fact. And I see the traffic slow down when you're approaching one of these visuals, these,
Digital billboards.
yeah.
Heaven forbid a motorist is texting while driving and they pass forward an electronic billboard, right?
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly.
Like, God help us if we're next to that person.
I guess a couple questions I have, Mr. Chairman. One is, are the digital signs, if we went that direction, are they going to be contrary to our light ordinance?
No, they're not. They do meet dark sky. They all shine down so that you can see it from the road.
Okay, my other question is, are we talking about surface streets, or are we talking freeway frontage?
It would allow any current billboard to be upgraded. If we changed our ordinance, any current billboard would be permitted to apply to be upgraded to a digital display. Or I could see if you wanted to limit it to highway billboards and not local billboards. Because we're only referring to billboards. Digital signage, like if Walgreens wanted to put a sign, you guys have a conditional use process for on-site signage that allows for digital displays. So we already have that allowance in the code. The property has to be a certain size. It has to be so many distance from another, like ours in front has to be so many distance from another digital display. This is particular to off-site signage and billboards.
So, do we know what Caltrans's requirement is? This obviously
I don't,
highways
but I
can
know
be
they
freeway.
permit them. If we allowed it, all the people could apply for it and Caltrans would issue them, I believe. All of our billboards would probably meet the distance requirements and that kind of thing. I'm not 100% sure, and I can look into Caltrans requirements, but I would want to rely on our own requirements anyways. If we wanted to allow if we wanted to allow a certain quantity per population or a certain distance, those are all regulations if you want to permit it that I can write into the code. If you want to say you can only have one per 5,000 feet, then when we get our first application, that's the first one. The next one can't be within 5,000 feet of that one.
See, I'm not sure how much say Caltrans has in the matter, since most of these are located on private property outside of state right-of-way. As long as it's not, they don't really have any land use direction
But they
outside
still
of there.
issue all permits for freeway signage. I do know that you have to have a state highway permit for all billboards on the freeway.
Yeah, and
That
that's
I know
what-
for
that's
sure.
what
I
was
don't know what
curious
the
about,
requirements are to
because-
get it. They could just be a simple paperwork, pay your fee and here's your permit.
Right. There's a lot
But-
of them along the 91 in Corona right now.
But
Yeah,
I
I'm
do,
sure they have
but I do
certain-
know one we were looking at doing in our city right of way, and they denied it. It didn't meet their zoning requirements. So there are reasons for them to deny them.
Okay.
Yeah, they have certain requirements, but Rebecca touched on brightness and so forth, and I don't think that Caltrans gets into that level of detail.
Right.
Like the one that I see frequently, and I'll pass it as I drive home tonight.
I think
is
we're thinking the same one
Moss
here.
Brothers Dodge on 60 freeway.
It glows from the mall
And
almost.
that thing is like the sun is out.
Yeah.
I pass it right now. So
Yeah.
brightness is at an all-time high on that site.
Yeah.
But I've seen others that aren't bright.
There's one in Colton that I go by, and you can't even tell really it's a digital. You have to, if you happen to see it change, you're like, oh wow, that's digital. It's not something that draws your attention right to it. And so I had called Lamar on that one and said, hey, I want the standards for how this one was built and operating, because that one's in. He was like, yes, there's differences in mechanisms. There's not only daytime changes, but there's also weather, brightness controls
deal
that
with
can be
ambient light.
done. And if we decide to move forward and allow them, I can work on codes to make sure that is covered and we get the newest technology and the best kind of billboard and not have it as bright. But it's a matter of whether we even want me to start researching.
I don't think we have an option, whether we like it or not. And I'll be honest with you, Paul and I are from the 8.5 by 11 and a pencil way to do business. But with the technology today, I think we would be better off if we have something in place that says this is what we allow or what we don't allow.
Yeah. Our current code does not allow it. Our current code says we have sufficient billboards. You cannot build new billboards, and you cannot upgrade your billboards to digital displays. So we currently prohibit it. We're here to ask if you want to consider allowing them.
But we do have allowances for electronic signs. So say we had a Dodge or something like that
Lovers or
come in.
something.
We would allow for it through the planning commission process.
Those are for on-site
Same with
signage.
if we got a movie theater,
Yes.
we would allow for electronic sign for that. That would be its own pylon sign, much like the one that Chevron got.
Yeah,
Except
but
it
it
could be
would be
electronic.
static, though.
It
All of them
may
are
or may not
static.
be.
We
It could
always
change.
require it to be static for a certain period of time, and then if we allowed them, we would require it to be static. It's not animated. You can't have something running across the screen.
The message can change, but it's
The
not
message would
animated.
change, so you would have a static display. Our current code, I believe, says you have to have a static display for 6 seconds. Then it has to go blank for 1 second, and then you can have a second message. And that's the current requirement for on-site. So if we allowed them on billboards, it would be a similar. No animation, no running across the screen, static for a certain period of time, blank for 1 second, then back to another static
What do you
image.
want to do?
The difference between billboards and the ones I brought up are that billboards are off-site, so they're not associated with any business at that property.
Correct,
And
right.
it may not even be a business within the city of Beaumont. Like, I thought it was funny that when Wolverine opened, Skechers bought the billboard right in front of Wolverine's building, which told you that the Skechers warehouse was right over the hill in Moreno Valley. Not a coincidence.
Yeah.
They purchased that billboard, and if it was electronic, they could do the same thing. So it's just know that
There's-
the billboards can be used for businesses not even within the city of Beaumont.
Okay, so let me go back to my question.
There's
What is it you want to do? I mean,
there's
come on, we're
there's
gonna make
pros
a
and
decision.
cons, and let me get into my pros and cons. The biggest con is the possibility of distracted driving. If there's an increase in accidents on our freeway, we want to make sure that our residents and the residents coming through our city are safe. And so there's a safety in keeping it the way that it is. There are definitely benefits for going to an electronic display. We can require them to put city messages, our concerts, our events, so we can gather more people to come into the city because we can require, as part of the CUP for a digital display, a certain amount of time that the city can get should we want it. Also means if there's Amber Alerts, if there's issues that people can take over a digital display to add a message if there's an emergency. So there's definitely benefits to electronic displays.
We
I
have
like to say I'm a good driver and I don't have to slow down to electronic. And like I said, if we can regulate it, I think there's electronic billboards. You hardly notice they're electronic billboards until you see it change.
We have 2 electronic bullet boards or billboards in the city now.
No,
The one in front of City Hall.
that's not a billboard.
That's not a billboard.
What do you call it then?
That's an on-site sign.
Oh, okay, an on-site sign, excuse me. And then we have one from the Chamber of Commerce.
And
that's
we
on-
have them at a school. We have on-site.
have those
we
types
have
of signs
on-site
already.
digital signs currently in the city. We do not have any billboards. Those big billboards on the freeway. We don't have any digital. We did have a mechanical one. That big giant "Welcome to Highland Springs" used to be a mechanical billboard, which changed between 3.
Right.
Rotated
Got the
between
boomers
3
on it.
messages. It was considered mechanical. And that's probably the closest thing we've had to an electronic billboard here in the city that I'm aware of.
The one advantage to them, I guess, would be that they're not such an eyesore compared to some of the older.
They don't wear out. It's
They
a
don't
digital
wear out,
display.
They don't look as.
Yes.
Yeah.
the maintenance is easier in terms of changing and updating
And
and
then in the winds, the coverings are
Yeah.
torn off, and
Yeah.
now you've got,
there's definitely benefits
yeah,
to
there's benefits to it.
for beautification
I
wise
like
as
the
well.
idea, though, that really, I'd like to touch on her idea was if we could stipulate where, for example, I'm gonna use the Cherry Festival for just an example. Folks coming in and out of town, if they look on the billboard, correctly, the billboard, right?
Yes.
I'm gonna get the right terminology. And they see that it's a Cherry Festival, or they're coming up with, something else, like our child safety fair or different things like that.
Yeah.
I think would enhance the city. So, and, the Amber Alert, obviously, but if it can be used to promote the city,
But like Kyle was saying, if they're privately owned, we may not have the option of what goes on there, correct?
We can, and under
okay.
conditional use permit, if we allow this, we would allow an upgrade with a conditional use permit application, and we can write a code that says, as part of the conditional use permit, you allow the city. I would have to talk I think a lot of cities do it, so I'd probably talk to Lamar and say, hey, what are other cities doing for the amount of time we get? Is it,
Riverside.
1 every 10? Is it 1 every 15 displays that we get hours? We would look at that if we wanted to move forward with allowing digital displays and coming up with that requirement. And it says, if you want to go digital, you need to meet our condition, which is if we have something we want to put up, you need to put it up 1 every 15 displays. Okay. The other benefit is if we do get billboards in the city, electronic billboards tend to make more money because they're not static, which could be more rent to the city on those leases if we get a city.
So how many
leased
of the
billboard.
How many of the billboards are on city property versus private property?
We're working on getting 2.
Okay.
We don't have any now, but we had an agreement that went to council with Lamar a few years ago that the ones in front of Amol Storage were a 10-year CUP only.
Okay.
And then we wrote a code that says you can't have any more. So Lamar purchased them, and then we notified them, you need to tear them down. Your term is over. So they came back to the city and wrote an agreement to remove a bunch of other ones,
I remember
keep
this.
those, and add 2 on city property. So we're still in the midst of that agreement where they're tearing down some of the old ones, upgrading some of them one that they already have, because there were some that were going to be allowed to be upgraded, and put some on city property that we're working with them on finding the sites for that, including one city billboard is part of that agreement where it's fully city advertised signs, 4 signs per time, but we couldn't require digital. We couldn't do any of that because our code didn't allow it. Okay. So they are part of their project is a full on city only billboard somewhere that we have to find a location for that we would be allowed free, no charge, 4 different signs per year. So that is something we're still working on.
Is there a major time motivation behind this at this point?
My understanding, there isn't any more.
Okay. Okay. So if my thoughts on it are, the distracted driving, once you go by them a couple times, you just get used to it, and it's really not the distraction anymore. I think it's more distracting when they first go up. I had concerns with the lighting and the brightness of it, because that same one at Dog coming home at night, I mean, that's blinding. It's hard to drive by. So I'd be kind of interested to see, what the specs are that come back, maybe a location that we could go by to see one of these, during the day or at night. We don't have a major time thing on this. We can discuss it at a couple meetings moving forward. I'm fine with that. But I know that cities,
I'm definitely not here to pressure you. So if you need
Yeah.
the time to do the research, let's get this right.
I'd like to take a little time to take a look at it, make sure we get it right. I know that cities, Riverside, we had a pylon sign that went up at University Village, and it was a private sign, but they did require as part of that private sign that so many messages per hour have to be for city messaging. So they might be a spot to start to look for, where a code or that requirement could be, that's not as much brought in by the developer, the owner of the property per se. Corona might be the other one with all the highway signs they just had installed as part of the 91 widening. They may have some messaging on that. But no, I'd be curious to know. I'd like to see definitely something that is sensitive to the dark skies ordinance. And, even if we get to a point where it shuts off after a certain time at night, I think the Dodge one does turn off after 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
That might be part of the condition to consider for it as well.
So I'm not hearing no. You'd like me to look into some optional condition,
yeah.
some optional code requirements and bring that back to you.
Yes.
Okay.
But I don't think it's anything, I go along with Nathan, I don't think it's anything that we have to handle in the next 30 or 60 days. You know, your time frame, but as long as the pressure's not there, you know, we need to take our time and look at it.
Yeah, we don't want to let it drag out for too long at the same time.
No.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll see if I can draft them between now and January, some options and some sites. So you'll have it in the staff report, whether you can make it out between the publishing of the staff report or not, or you want to continue it again and review it, that will be within your purview.
2020 would be good.
Well, I think council expects me to come back to them sooner with your direction. But, if you go back, also listen to the meeting in September, see how they're feeling. I mean, they did push it to you, but it seemed like a lot of them still had a distracted driving concern. So even if we go through all this and you guys want to put a code together and recommend a code to them, it could still fail. So,
Well, if it changes intensity with the ambient light and it's static, I don't have as much of a problem with it as these constantly moving signs that just totally distract you, and they're so bright.
yeah. No, our off-site signs probably move.
Yeah.
Like the one at Palm Elementary, I think doesn't meet our code, but they're a school district. It constantly scrolls.
Yeah.
It's not just a static and changing.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
That's not as severe on a
side
surface
street,
street,
yes,
because
yes.
you're not.
So we would
you're not
make sure-
traveling at 75
Yeah,
miles an
we
hour.
would make sure someone's not bouncing across the screen.
Right,
It would
yeah.
have to be a static display.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I could go along with that.
I mean, to see some more information.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll bring back maybe some optional codes and ideas.
And please make sure that wherever you get your information, Nathan wasn't involved with it.
Oh, no, you're good here. No worries.
That's all I have.
He's just another guy to miss a meeting.
I show up to all the meetings. I may sit in the hall for a little ways, but
Okay, the next meeting is going to be on January 9th. Are there any other items you need to talk to us about?
oh, one more to do. That Smash Mouth sign.
We can require people to put it up. I can't require people to take it down.
Really?
Which one?
The Smash
Smash
Mouth
Mouth
sign
sign.
is still on that giant billboard that we requested them under. That one had a condition that they put up a sign when we requested it, but it cost them money to get the equipment up there and remove it. So unless they have another rental, I think their idea is to leave it up because it costs them money and we're not paying them for it.
Well, that might be something we want to consider for
With
future
digital,
iterations
again,
of
with
billboards.
digital,
Right.
that's not the problem.
Yeah.
They turn it off.
Did they change that right on their site, right on their, or in their facilities?
Because I'm afraid to go any
Yes.
further.
They don't have to go out and?
No, it's all computer
Yeah.
accessed. If they go out, I'm sure they don't have to climb up. I know
Yeah.
that for sure. I'm pretty sure everything is from wireless from a controlled station, or at least within a certain distance.
Okay. Any other questions?
No, sir.
Then I'm going to adjourn this meeting at 7:06.